I did hear
There he
you.
is.
Hey, we're on. Hey, Peter, we're live. Just joining us as we're talking about.
Hey guys.
You can tell he's not in Vancouver anymore.
We just started.
Got the hat back on, back to Winnipeg.
I like it. Now that's that's in Canada. That's what, a toque? Is that right?
A toque. That's actually what it is everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, but okay, we'll take it for you. It's not down here. It's not a toque. If you ask somebody for what a toque is down here, they will not have any idea what you're talking about.
I know. We love it.
Not even slightly. All right, so I'm exhausted, but I got to throw out my. So I want to talk about the Super Bowl for a second because obviously that's dominating the world around here right now. And now, and I'm, like I said, I'm a casual football fan. Obviously get into this. I want the Eagles to win because this whole city seems to go up or down based on it. And and I'm happy for a lot. I have so many friends who are huge Eagle fans, like living and dying.
Sure. Me too. I know a lot of people.
Yeah, right. Like living and dying by this game. And I thought it was a great game. And I mean, is it just me or was this like one of the best Super Bowls?
No, it was one of the best. It was a great game
to watch because I've watched, many of them that, I didn't have a rooting interest in. And I thought they were.
No, I would say top 5.
I'd go top 10. I mean, there wasn't a lot of defense.
No.
But, I don't, that's the thing. Here's the funny thing, Peter. I don't think there's been a lot of defense for a long time in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Or the defense has been very one-sided.
Right.
But it has been. I mean, so this is my little secret about me is I was a quarterback for a very long time, and I played that position. I was, right up into high school freshman, and then I quit. But so I know football inside out. I know the sport inside out. But as far as and plays and everything like that, I was getting so. There were a couple moments that were just absolutely infuriating to me during this game last night. The one was the winning touchdown the Eagles got, and why this was at all reviewed.
It goes back to the whole season act. Like there's this new.
Because that's what I said to my wife. I'm like, there must have been some other time.
Yeah, there's a new catch rule, and nobody seems to know. But
I really thought because I think we talked on one of the pre-shows, Russ, when that Steelers Patriots game happened, and they called that tight end. I think it was Jesse James. I think his name was. They called that a non-touchdown, and I looked at that replay, and based on what had happened in the Steelers game, and that I thought that was going to be an incomplete. It would have been a complete injustice, but if there's any consistency in the NFL, that one probably should have been incomplete too, and it wasn't.
It would have been such an embarrassment, don't you think? I mean,
right.
Oh
no, it would have been.
It's one thing to have that happen in Pittsburgh, New England regular season game or whatever, but it's another thing to have it happen now.
Can you imagine what Philadelphia would look like had that not been a touchdown?
There would have been riots in the streets. I mean, it would have been insane.
There would have been fires burning. Oh, wait a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I looked at that, and today I wrote an article, and of course Patriots fans got on me. One of them found a grammatical error in my article. Thank you for finding that. I found it too. But I had a migraine when I wrote it. So
nice of them.
Yes. But here's the thing. I thought Chris Collinsworth ruined that broadcast.
Oh, can I tell you? I mean, and like I say, I'm not a huge Eagles fan. I wanted to win, but we know Brady's going to come back and win this game thing was just so like literally he's still saying it when there's like 25 seconds left.
It got to the point of absurdity, and that's what I wrote about. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I mean, and that play there too, I thought the first touchdown reviewed I could actually see as possibly being
right
iffy. The second one, like I said, at least when I played football, that's a touchdown. There's no two ways about it. Now, obviously, there's this new rule that started, right? So I was losing my mind. And then I lost my mind when the Eagles threw the ball. Right before that touchdown, they threw the ball on the one play because they could have very easily run the clock down a lot more than they did. And I was really worried that they were going to give. I
was surprised. I agree with that. I was sitting in Vancouver Airport, and I was sort of leaving the restaurant I was at to go board my flight, and I had it on my phone, and I'm watching this. I'm like, that's a lot of time, guys. And the Patriots still had a timeout, I believe, at that point as well, and the 2 minutes.
They blew it by not delaying a little bit, like 2 more seconds before the 2-minute warning, which they could have easily caused, and then they also blew it by throwing the ball on, I think it was second down. That because they all they had to do was maybe they were afraid of their field goal kicker. I don't know. Maybe they were afraid.
Well, I think after he missed the kick, I think Belichick didn't want to go to him if he didn't have to. I think that was a thing.
Yeah.
But
I don't think I don't think it was the kicker, Russ. I think it was the freaking holder. The holder is the one who screwed them.
No, but I'm talking about the Eagles here. I'm talking about maybe the Eagles were afraid of their kicks because the Eagles, all the Eagles had to do there was the ball. All the Eagles had to do was run the ball 3 times.
Eagles you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Talking about the Eagles with like 2 minutes left. Oh, they were in well.
No, but here's the thing. All right, I get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like in basketball with the constant fouling. All teams do this. No matter what, they will not risk a high-risk play to get that first down. They would rather let the other team get the ball back with very little time and chance it against their defense. This is something now that's accepted throughout the NFL, even though you only need a first down, but you're risking interception, a pick six, something that could turn the tide, and they don't want to go against that.
And also remember, too, each team has their stats on where they score from in that red zone, too. As you get in, they know, like, we're better, our plays work better. We have a higher success ratio if the ball's on the 18 than it is on the 8.
Right.
Like, they know all these nuances about what plays work and everything. And I think that's something, we have to remember, too. Football, like, I have a son who is mad about it. He played it. I don't get the nuances of football. I don't jive in the same detail of it that I do with other things.
Yeah.
But people who do, it's a very, very complex chess.
No, there's
it is.
I think it's really easy to forget that.
Yeah, I'm not even that technical with it. Like, I have a good feeling for it. I've watched it my whole life. I don't get every substitution. I don't get every – but here's a couple things that I did pick up from this broadcast. With 20 seconds to go and her husband's season on the line, it seemed like Giselle had, like, dry skin on her hands. And that seemed to be more of an issue than the actual game. Did anybody else notice that?
Oh, yeah, Jesus. Who gives a crap? My God. Really, it's like, I have friends who send me messages. Look at that horse face up in the press box. And I'm like, this is a supermodel who's making $20 million a year and you're calling her a horse face? Really?
No. I mean,
I didn't know Elway was at the game.
There were some. The other thing that I think that was just unbelievable to me was the the 4th and goal play that the Eagles pulled off at the end of the first.
Yeah, and he's been doing that all year, so I wasn't shocked.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, that's true. And because that was the other thing, Collinsworth, the way they were reacting to that thing, like, this is unbelievable.
I know, he's been doing it all year. We were screaming at the party.
There was no question that he was going it, and there was no question that they were going to go for it again on 4th down if they needed to in the last drive. So they're making all these great 3rd downs, which is true, but they were going to go for it on every 4th down.
They actually. Russ, they actually, in a way, the Eagles used a little bit of the Chip Kelly offense in that game. They used a lot of movement and a lot of, and that threw the page.
Speak to you a little bit. They've been doing that since Nick Foles came back in. I mean, they because slowly. They wanted Nick Foles to be comfortable. They've been doing it slowly.
They hadn't worked it all back in yet.
Yeah, they that whole deciding whether or not to hand off play, what they do. Yeah. Is Chip Kelly's play, so it's right there, and they use that a lot because Foles likes that play and he's comfortable with it.
I will tell you that I did call the fumble, and my wife is a witness.
Really?
Because I've witnessed Tom Brady fumbling before, and he's holding a cast, and I said, hey, this doesn't look good. I said, but Brady could fumble, and he literally fumbled on the next play.
Great. That was for all the no defense in that game.
That was the one time the defense made
one of the best defensive plays in Super Bowl history. I mean,
it's a great play.
The timing of that play was insane. I mean, honestly, it just was absolutely crazy.
Yeah. But I will say this: the halftime show. Okay.
All right.
Now, my wife had a theory, and she might be right, and we might all be wrong. We all heard the sound problems, but then a couple people at the party were saying, "Well, it seems like Justin Timberlake was trying to sort of like mimic that he was in a club." And maybe they wanted it to sound like he was in a club. And then when he walked out to the stadium, the sound seemed to improve. Is that possible, Eck, or was the sound just bad to start?
Well, there are 2 totally different feeds to the TV and to the.
Right.
I mean, you have to when you're mixing sound for a stadium, you have 2 different boards. I mean, there's 2 soundboards that are going. So what we were hearing on TV could have been nothing like what they were hearing in the stadium. So,
so that would explain why Justin Timberlake, because people were like ripping him, like his mic was bad, he would never hear it.
Like, he's another feed altogether.
Right.
He's got his in-ear monitors, which are set up, and when you travel with in-ear monitors, we did this for a while too. It's the greatest thing in the world because there's an in-ear monitor board that's always set the same exact way, so you don't have to test your monitors wherever you go. But that mix has nothing to do with what you're hearing out there. So what Justin Timberlake could be hearing like 90% of his voice and nothing else, or might be hearing none of his voice, or might just want to hear kick drums all the time, or whatever, whatever he to go through there.
Yeah.
So
there was great debate over the Prince hologram because CBS had reported they killed it. And then all of a sudden it showed up and people looked at me at the party and I'm like, look at the headline. CBS wrote
the rumor was it was a playing with Prince hologram. Like there was a whole year 2-pack. That was just a projection on a screen, right?
I know, but Prince said he didn't want to ever be a hologram. Like Sheena E.
God bless her.
Was on Twitter saying that Prince had told her more than once that he never wanted to be a hologram. So I kind of felt bad when I saw it.
Yeah, and there was people started posting an interview from '98 where he talked about that, and he said, if I was meant to play with Duke Ellington, I'd be alive when Duke Ellington was.
Right.
Like he specifically talked about that.
But that was like one of the only good moments of the show, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is, I didn't watch, and I traditionally do not watch unless it's somebody like Paul McCartney, who I worship. I don't watch the halftime, and I didn't do it this year as well. I just put on some hockey fights, and that was more than entertaining for.
That's right. You watch hockey fights at halftime. I remember that. That's a tradition.
Yeah. And but honestly, the broadcast, and I don't know if this was all over the place, but in the first quarter they went to commercial, and there was 30 seconds of black space.
Oh, yeah.
Dark screen.
No, that was great because in our house we use a projector.
Yeah, same in where I was.
So I'm like, I turn around and the projector's totally dark, which means that it usually means that it's broken. Like
there was widespread panic.
Someone sat on the remote and turned it off. That's the only thing.
You know what that turned into? A $2 million refund, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The commercial of the day though, hands down the Giants.
Oh yeah, we all loved it.
That was off the chart.
Oh, it was despicable. I'm sorry, that was an embarrassment.
Despicable.
That was a terrible.
Beauty.
I told you. I hate the movie Dirty Dancing with a passion. I hear that friggin' song.
You don't have a soul.
I cringe.
You don't have a soul at all. You're soulless.
And Odell Beckham is not my favorite player, so let's just say that.
The commercial was glorious. It was great.
No,
Mike,
terrible.
Mike, of all the things you've ever done on this show, of all the moments you've ever said anything, this one is by far the craziest. I mean, first of all, it's really almost impossible, even if you're like a complete, thug, to hate on Dirty Dancing.
I was cringing. It was so bad. It was so terrible.
It was supposed to be cringe. It was cringing. Everyone's cringing. That's part of it.
I'm going to tell you what was great about it, okay?
Patrick Swayze.
Hold on. As a white man who has no rhythm and can't dance, neither can Eli Manning, and he did it. And did it in a commercial, and that's fantastic.
The best moment of the whole thing is when the coach is going out. When the coach is going out to try to stop them, and they hold back, just like the mother does in the movie. That was just unbelievable.
It was great.
Patrick Swayze was rolling over in his grave, and if Jennifer Grey could undo all her plastic surgery, never mind.
Not to talk about people's thoughts beyond the grave again, because we've had that twice now. But I mean, maybe dying made Prince a little bit less concerned about being a hologram. Maybe where he is now, he's doesn't think that's the worst thing in the world.
That's all we know is his thoughts about it, though.
I know all you know is his thoughts, but somehow I think dying changes your perspective on things.
If I'm dying, I certainly don't care what Mike says anymore.
But once you're gone, if you do that, you don't know what happened.
Wait a second. You don't care what I say right now, so what the hell difference would it make?
We don't know what comes next, right? But if there's anything that you can possibly see this world, do you think Prince is really like, oh man, I can't believe they put that on? I think he would have been honored by that. I think he would. I don't know.
I have no way of knowing.
You don't have
any way of knowing. If I'm in heaven and I am Prince, I'm not worried about being a hologram. I'm dreaming about when I was with Apollonia and Vanity.
Oh God!
You're in heaven. You're not watching Justin Timberlake. That's what I'm telling you.
That's true.
Yes.
No, I mean he's fine, but he is. It's amazing. It does make me feel old when I have to look up Justin Timberlake's age and find out that.
I did the same thing. He's 37.
He's 37 years old.
That's like saying Justin
Timberlake is 37 years old to me.
I have to say the one thing that was disturbing to me, it made me feel old. It's not like disturbing because of the content of the commercials. It was like, did they have to make like every old person do hip hop? Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, oh, that's
true. The guy for Game of Thrones. There was some like geriatric 80-something-year-old lady doing rap, and I'm like, okay, what is it? What is it with the?
How about this? Conversely, the T-Mobile inclusion commercial with the infants was spectacular.
It was.
Yeah,
that
really one I liked. Now, did you find the Steven Tyler Kia commercial disturbing? Because I thought it was disturbing.
That whatever that was at the end, what they computer generated Tyler to be back in the 70s was disturbing.
So was the Danny DeVito.
Go ahead.
The Danny DeVito M&M commercial was equally disturbing. To me.
Which one? I didn't hear.
The M&M commercial.
See that one.
Oh, the M&M. It was disturbing, but it was meant to be, so we laughed. Danny DeVito's funny.
The other commercial I really liked was the one for the Paralympics skier. That was incredible. I thought. Odds of winning gold medal. Yeah, that I will tell you this, and I pointed this out twice to people who were there. You didn't see one highlight, one picture of men's hockey at all in those vignettes. That's true.
Zero.
That's true.
Oh, you mean for the Olympics?
For the Olympics.
There was one moment of women's hockey in it, actually.
There was women's hockey shots, but not men's.
Yeah, and we saw about 10 shots of Lindsey Vaughn's scars on her arm and knee, but we saw nothing of Team USA hockey. That tells you something.
So last night I got home and I got into Winnipeg around 1:00, and I'm on West Coast time, so I came in and sat down. I said I should watch the highlights of the game because I literally was watching the final seconds as I'm walking onto the plane. So I turned on sports news, watched that, and then I watched a little bit of CNN, and they had Christine Amanpour in Pyeongchang, and she's talking about the hockey, and she says the two favorite teams are Canada and the USA, and I'm like, no, they're not. Oh no.
Christian, you know
your NHL Olympics, honey. This is sorry, I don't mean that in a disparaging way by saying honey. This is a little bit different, because what they're really talking about was all the sanctions and the 15 athletes from Russia who aren't being allowed to compete now, and they didn't mention anything about the hockey players and that powerhouse coming in.
Yeah,
Christian, you know as much about hockey as you do about politics.
Well,
I actually think she knows.
You said the P word, Mike.
Clearly, she doesn't know about hockey, so that's why.
I do know for a fact, having talked to people at NBC, and that they're not happy about the NHLers not going there. I mean, that's there's no question about it.
Of course, they're not happy, but not only are they not happy, they didn't even show a second of it. If I'm a person who doesn't even know what's in the Winter Olympics, I don't know that men's hockey exists.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually shocked at this, and then we should start talking about hockey. When during one of the Leaf broadcasts, CBC is moving Hockey Night in Canada Saturday broadcasts to Sportsnet, and CBC is going to have the Olympics on the main channel, which I was actually surprised at because the ratings for Hockey Night in Canada, I'm sure, are comparable to the Olympics, but they have that contract. So, but I seriously doubt they're moving the NHL to Sportsnet for Olympic hockey. They're moving it for ice dancing and skating and skiing and all that stuff.
I mean, in fairness, someone said to me, someone just texted me, what were they going to show? Like highlights of the Spengler Cup to promote the hockey that was going to come up? They couldn't.
Well, but you have to have something pre-made. Like if nothing else, you should have gone and what I would have done was I would have done a video of like Gianta and a couple of the guys, had them with their uniforms on, and made a little montage, even though there hasn't been a game, so there is something.
Yeah, but do you think...
You know what? There's a great tie-in to 1980 with this. A bunch of no-names coming in again.
Yeah, you could go that route. You could.
You bring back that glory from 1980 in Lake Placid. You run it right through the story of underdogs and off
Peter,
you go. It's a great story.
You could have done that if Team USA had actually picked more college players, Instead, they picked 3 or 4 college players, and the rest of them, it's like the Detroitus from the Swedish Hockey League and the SM Liga and the KHL. So it's I think that The NHL, again, I think Hockey Canada and Team USA, in a way, did this on purpose because now the IOC, I think, after they see the disgusting ratings they get in Pyeongchang, they're going to end up probably, giving something to the NHL in 4 years.
I'll make you a prediction. Curling in Canada will be ratings will be higher.
They showed a curling highlight over the men's hockey.
My son's favorite sport.
And not to be sexist, but I watch the female curling because they're very beautiful ladies, and it's a great sport. I always enjoy watching curling.
I'll tell you right now, Caitlin Laws is just as pretty in person as she is on TV, and she's super nice.
That's cool.
I would say this for all the times, like Mike said, that they showed Lindsey Vonn. They could have shown like Hillary Knight working out or something the same way because she's just as good an athlete. She really is.
And frankly, all networks, Canadian included, should be hyping the women's hockey like there's no tomorrow.
Absolutely.
It's going to be intense because now they really know the spotlight of the sport is actually on them.
It is.
I know. And
it's not even close.
And they also have like an underdog thing going on because the Canadian women have so dominated the American women going into this. Recently, but it doesn't matter. It's one game. And one game, so this is anyone to win. So it's going to be great. All right, let's get going here.
Let's
Hello,
start.
Hockey World. That's right. We're starting at 1:32. Hello, Hockey World. Oh man, how do I do this? So tired, I can't remember this.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is.
I got it. Hello, Hockey World. Today is February 5th, 2018.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Peter Tessier.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportology.
And it's Monday. And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast comes every Monday through Friday in the afternoons to fill you in on your comings and goings in the hockey world. We are 21 days from the trade deadline. And yes, things have to be starting to getting exciting soon, right? We're hoping. This has absolutely been one of the weirder trade deadlines, and what's weird about it is it started off very much like I thought this was going to be a really simple trade deadline. I felt like this was going to be no problem. A month ago, I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Basically, you're going to have Kane's going to go first, and then you're going to have somebody's going to come in. But now suddenly, today I hear JVR might still be. I'm like, that's crazy enough as it is.
It is changing. I agree with you on that.
And with the more people that get added to this thing, by the second here, the more we end up, with like a situation of okay. Maybe it's the supply and demand. Now the prices are going to go down, and they have to go down because you have too many players. And we'll get to that in a second. But I want to start with the Philip Forsberg thing and then move on because, but I do want to touch that. So we'll get right into the trade deadline stuff after this. But Philip Forsberg suspended 3 games, and we're going to watch it here. So for his hit on Jimmy VC. So here we go, and we can all figure out what we think of this. All right.
Causing an injury. As the video shows, BC and Predators forward.
This is the actual
race to corral a loose puck
NHL
as
thing.
Forsberg tracks the puck up ice in support. BC picks up the puck and carries it towards.
We're not seeing it. We're not seeing it.
Really?
Forsberg approaches.
No,
I'm seeing
we're
you.
hearing it, but we're not seeing it.
Sorry, hold on.
His back.
I apologize.
Quickly chips the puck up
again.
the wall and continues on his course
I'll move
around
on here.
Well, after the
Here we
puck
go.
is gone.
Got it now?
There we go.
Go to finish a check.
This is after his back.
Delivers a high, forceful hit to BC that makes substantial head contact. This is interference. Players who are not in possession of the puck are never eligible to check. However, the interference rule provides a brief window during which a player is to hit while his opponent is in possession of the puck may legally finish a check.
All right.
This is not such a case.
Can I just put?
I have issues with this.
Contact
Continue.
is made outside the allowable window.
Well,
Sorry, I'm going to stop.
Right. Can I just put this out there, and it can be shot down as a ridiculous thought? Is there a possibility that this is Jimmy Vesey, the guy that stiffed us, and let's get him?
No.
Okay, because that was the first thought in my head.
And I don't think Philip Forsberg's that kind of guy, but
right.
There's so many issues with this play.
Yeah.
On both sides of the argument. And the one I don't like is where they say, because I haven't actually seen their review of the video, I've seen the hip, I hadn't heard their explanation, is that this is outside of the window.
Yeah.
Well, if that's interference, What on God's green earth is every winger going down the boards, chipping the puck to the inside and going outside and getting shoved in the face? What is interference saying?
I mean, this is so not interference. I mean, there's no reason to even call it interference.
It's an elbow to the face.
It's an elbow to the head.
Yeah.
He went up like that.
Yeah. So call him for elbowing, give him 2 games, and get on with it.
But here's the thing. All right. So here it's a layered thing, like you said. So there's an elbow to the head. It doesn't get called for any penalty in the game, which is crazy. He has blood coming from his mouth. They see that, and there's still no penalty, nothing. He goes to the bench, and they correctly pull him from the bench and put him in concussion protocol. At that point, shouldn't the referees huddle up and say, okay, look, we got to call this as a penalty because this guy's obviously concussed, which today it is a concussion, and nothing was called. Now, everything else was right. The concussion protocol was right. The hit was a dirty hit. Philip Forsberg may not be a dirty player, but he's a competitive player, and he hit him high. But once a guy's got blood in his mouth and everything else, you have to go back and correct that call. You do.
Yeah. It's like when a stick breaks over a mouse. Yeah. Like I mean, there's such a problem right now of authority in the NHL. Who has it to make these calls when they happen?
I agree with that.
The whole process is the mess, and that's the biggest problem. Give the refs the ability to look at the screen and go, "Wow, we missed that. Boom, you're done."
Correct, and that's exactly what should happen.
Don't argue about the merits of, well, does it fall in the reviewability category? That doesn't help the game. That doesn't solve your problem.
But it's an inequity in the game, though, because all of a sudden at that point, VC is out for the rest of the game. He's an important player for the Rangers. Their bench gets shortened, and they get no relief out of it. That's unfair just on a hockey premise of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? And there's so many aspects about this in sports. It's different. I said yesterday in a tweet, and I meant it, and I said, this is a horrible thing to say, but if I was Philly or anyone, I would go do a headshot on Brady because all you're going to give up is 15 yards in the first down.
I heard you say that, yeah.
Right? Like, it's not right. But there's no consequence.
No,
and you can deal with the consequence, like at the time.
And that comes down.
That changes everything if they can go back and do that. But they can't.
The problem with this, and we'll sound really old when we say this, but this is what everybody will say at the NHL is like, the problem has nothing to do with anything but the fact that players don't respect each other anymore. That's what you come back to, like and that's what people say. I mean, and that's what everyone. And I sometimes buy that to a degree. I didn't see this hit as dirty as you guys did.
I look in the chat room, like everybody thinks it's a dirty hit. He's just not a dirty player. That's the issue.
He's not a dirty player, but he clearly, maybe because he's backing up and it's unusual in a way. It's not like a cheek check like Brian McCabe used to throw, but it's an elbow up high, and to me there was clearly intent there.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, look, let's put it this way. An elbow to the jaw and blood coming out hurts just the same. Like if I accidentally kick Mike in the junk, it might be accidental, but it still hurts just the same.
True. I mean, and that comes down to, if a guy gets hurt, is the penalty more severe? We've had that discussion times.
Like in the chat room, they said, hey, if there's blood in that kind of play, should it be an automatic 5-minute? And that's a good question to ask. Yeah. It is.
And by the way, Peter, if you use that analogy about the Eagles taking a shot at Brady, they took a shot at that wide receiver, and it was a head-on-head, and the guy didn't get any penalty. So there you go.
Exactly.
And it was a head-on-head, and I called it once I saw it. I was like, but again, see, that's the thing. It's like we have to be – I think referees have to be, like, extra cautious and really on it. And even if they have to go back on a call when something involves the head now, I think that's a tweak that has to happen in this game. I do.
I don't disagree. I think that I do know the referees are afraid. One of the things that bothers me more than anything is when referees are afraid to make calls because of instant replay. That's something that you've seen too. Like you need a call. There needs to be a call on the ice because there has to be.
There does, and that's fine.
An inconclusive. And that's something the NFL doesn't have, right? The NFL doesn't have that inconclusive goes to what the call was on the field type thing.
But what if they said, hey, Toronto just looked at this and decided there's a penalty in this. call it to the refs, and the refs say that. I don't think the fans would have a problem with that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right about that. And I don't know why they don't. I don't know why they don't do that necessarily, especially when.
And there was something else that happened with this. Apparently, there's a civilian named Mike Fisher that said the call's a joke.
Yeah, I saw that.
I got to tell you, he should be fined. Except he's not a player.
Not a player. Yeah, right. So he can say whatever he wants. It's interesting.
It is interesting.
I mean, that's just the way it goes, right? So
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Rangers too while we're there, and the Rick Nash stuff, which is coming up, and not super surprising, but
no, I don't think anybody's super surprised.
I don't know that it's even good. I don't even think that this makes it more likely that he gets traded either. I mean, that's what people are freaking out that he's going to get traded. I think
it's formality in a way. You have to, if you're not asking him for that list, you're not doing your due diligence as a GM.
Right, and you have to get that list at least. But then there's the whole dynamics. I talked to a player today who reminded me of, and I know you'll remember this, Mike, because we talked about this before about the craziness of this list thing where you can put teams on there that won't trade for you, and you can really manipulate this down. Like, you can say you're perfectly fine getting traded to Arizona. Arizona's not going to trade for you.
Right. But a player can get burned on that because when you remember, Dion Phaneuf put down the Ottawa Senators because he thought never in their right mind would the Maple Leafs make a trade with Ottawa with a division rival. But at that point, all the Leafs wanted to do was get rid of Phaneuf's contract, so they didn't care where he played, and they traded him to Ottawa. So, you can get burned by that, and I think. See, I disagree. Not to say that this isn't just a process that they have to request that list from Nash. They do, and most teams are doing that with their guys who are rentals. But I do think it's significant that it got out there so quickly that this is to drum up some business. I mean, his name has been out there.
If you ask me, I think the agent probably put it out there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. If that's true, Nash wins out.
That's not a bad thing to do either, because the agent will likely be involved in some of this process. Because, right, like from a point of view of saying, look, what if someone looks at Nash and says, well, we might want to keep him longer? What if they don't look at him as a rental? Or what if they say, come back to New York and say, okay, your price is fine if I knew he had 2 more years at a reasonable rate. So now I've got to get him for 2 more years, right? So the agent's going to be involved in this somehow.
Now, there's something that came up, Peter, that I think you'll find interesting. I heard it in the chat room, and so people were saying, "Hey, Winnipeg's a great team?" And I said, "Yeah, but you don't know when Nash made this list if he thought Winnipeg was a great team and put Winnipeg on the list. That's the thing."
He can change that list anytime he wants.
Yes, he can. But what might shoot if some of the theories or some of the intentions of teams trading for him who want to potentially sign him is the fact that it was floated out there over the weekend. I think it was Elliot Friedman who said that Nash and Grabner might do one of those Keith Tkachuk moves. They might go someplace for the deadline and then re-sign. He likes it in New York. Maybe he re-signs with the Rangers, and the Rangers get maybe a first-round pick out of the deal, and then he turns right around and goes back to the Rangers. It's possible.
Well, that's what people are expecting, but I will tell you this. I think if Rick Nash leaves the barn, I don't think he'll be coming back. And that's just my feeling. Grabner, I think, would be welcome back. Absolutely.
If you're Rick Nash, you want to go to a team that's going to give you a shot, like a shot to win, your best shot, right? You want to be someplace that you have a legit chance to do this. So if it doesn't work out, as Russ you're saying, does he come back and say, I want more of that taste. I've only got so much time left. It's better for me to take a slight discount and go to XYZ team over ABC because I want another shot. And I think you're right.
He does. And the only reason I don't think the Rangers would want him back is his production has just dropped to the point where he is an excellent two-way player. He is a guy that skates really well, but he's not in on unless he's playing with a real fire starter like a Buchnevich or somebody else, you have to feed Rick Nash all the time. He gets no assists. And so not every team wants a player like that anymore, especially if he's not scoring 35 goals.
Well, let's just say if he comes back to the Rangers, he's not going to be making $7.8 million. In fact, I don't think he would be making half of that.
And he'll make $4.5 on another team, though. He will.
Yeah.
Right, on another
$5 million player.
Yeah,
and that I have no issue with that. No, and that's the problem, right? If the Rangers want a first, a prospect, and maybe like just throw out the standard, right, for a quality player, first prospect in a draft, and a roster player. You're probably going to want some other term on the end of the deal, or you want to know that, do I have a chance of signing Rick Nash? Because that's going to be your pushback. I mean, that's just negotiation.
I think so, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, Rick Nash is so terrible in the playoffs. It's like this. That's the strange thing about him.
He doesn't have great playoff numbers. He doesn't.
I mean, somebody sent me this just now, and this is really unbelievable. This is the comparison of Rick Nash and Jason Chimera in the playoffs.
Oh my God,
which is staggering. I mean,
look, I don't think we've hidden it on this show, right? We've talked about it every year. He's been in the playoffs practically.
Yeah, but I mean that's just. I mean, think of what's Jason worth at the trade deadline. Like a normal situation.
I think the most damning part is that Chimera has more goals.
I know, and 4 more goals. I mean, like not just almost twice the amount of goals. I mean, that's a crazy number. So if you're making a rental player, you want that player to be there for the playoffs. I mean, that's what you're doing this for. So that's why I really think the chances of Nash getting traded.
But it depends the role you put him in. Like if you literally get Rick Nash and you say, on this team, you're going to be a third liner and we're going to put you on the penalty kill, you'll get something good out of Rick Nash then. You will.
Yeah, maybe.
You're not going to spend $5 million on that. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
What do you mean? I mean, you're kidding, right, Mike? Look at the salaries for players. And there's always the chance that if we put the right player with him, we can get 30 goals again. That will always be in the conversation.
I think there'll be a ton. I think there'll be a ton of teams out there looking for Rick Nash in the summer if he's willing to take a deal reasonably close to the Eric Stahl deal. 3 years, $9 million, 3 years, $10 million, something in that range. If he goes out there, looks for 3 years, $15 million, I don't know if he's getting that. I really don't.
Yeah, but he'll be the problem with Nash, and we've seen this before. He will be very picky on where he wants to go, and that could limit the options for what he has based on talent, money, whatever, because he is picky about it. There's no question about it. We've seen it.
He's such a frustrating
Edmonton scoring.
No, I mean, to me, he's such a frustrating player. I mean, I remember the Stanley Cup final rest was sitting with you and I was just going off on him. That's my memories. Gosh, like I would watch his shifts because you're in the game and you can watch the shift from beginning to end. It would be shifts where he wouldn't touch anything. Like he wouldn't touch another player. He wouldn't touch the boards. He wouldn't touch a puck. His stick wouldn't hit the ice, and he would skate around for 35 seconds and go back to the bench. And you're like, how can a player like Rick Nash not touch anything on his shift? I mean, this is the craziness about it. And then there are times, when he has these unbelievable streaks
where nobody can catch him on the ice. He gets ahead of steam. He starts hitting people. It's never consistent enough, especially now as he's getting a little into the second part of his career.
Yeah, and this is a real
value. Teams will want him.
This is a really gun-shy group of buyers out there right now. That's what I mean. I've been talking to people. There are a lot.
Oh, it's not gun-shy like Major League Baseball. You want to talk about gun-shy? Major League Baseball is gun-shy. I don't think they're to that degree.
I mean, I think they are really afraid of giving up too much for Evander Kane. They are really afraid of giving up too much for Max Pacioretty. I mean, there's a lot more fear, and there's a lot of people saying, what was the last? I've heard this 4 or 5 people say this to me over the weekend. What was the last trade deadline deal that people gave up that much money that made any sense at all, that worked or helped anybody? And people are saying that's where this is at right now. So
Marty St. Louis for Ryan Callahan.
No, but you know what? It helped that year, and it's killing him now. So I will disagree. I didn't like that trade then. I still don't like that trade.
But, people can look back. Every year there's one, like Shattenkirk last year. What did that do? Like every year there's one that makes something.
Yeah.
I'm to my dying day, I'll be convinced that deal was basically a blocking deal, that Washington did that to keep Shattenkirk away from a team like Pittsburgh.
I agree with that. I think that was a defensive move. No pun intended.
Maybe, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sold on that. I mean,
but I do think that the market, and there may be a lot of hesitancy, and there should be because it's 3 weeks out and people are looking for the best deal. But I think there's a lot of hesitancy because there's a lot of there's a lot of sellers out there. I mean, you've got 8 teams right now that are definite sellers. And I think that some of these buyers are basically saying, okay, I can afford to be patient because these teams will get desperate as we get closer to February 26th and say, I got to get something for this guy because we're not going to sign him. So,
but conversely, teams with injuries will get desperate too.
Well, and let's tie this back to Winnipeg. Now, Mark Scheifele could be back on the 9th, but Trouba is out 6 to 8 weeks, so another 7 weeks potentially. Lowry is listed as day-to-day after re-aggravating an upper body injury. Tanev is week to week. Hendricks is now out. He could be the first player back. And I'm not saying Hendricks' impact thing. That's 3 of their 4 centers.
Right.
Plus 3 of their 4 PK guys. Top 4 PK. There might be a little desperation right now. Now the Jets are on coming into their second game or third game of a 10-game homestand, and they don't leave Winnipeg until the last week of February. Right. So they've got some advantage here. But Kevin Cheveldayoff might be getting a little more interested in getting a deal done given the injury status. And this is the second time around for both Tanev and Lowry. So maybe they didn't heal up quite the way they thought, and that's a bit of a concern. Now, there's a lot of depth on the team.
Yeah.
But, Russ, to your point of going back, I think when you're talking about Grabner, maybe a Michael Grabner makes a lot more sense for the Jets than the big name-hunting Rick Nash.
I agree. I think Grabner, it improves your penalty kill.
Yeah.
It helps you at the end of a game if you do need that empty netter because of his speed, and he has been scoring more goals lately. I agree.
Yeah,
Grabner would be a great ad for Winnipeg. He'd be a great ad for Nashville because we know Nashville's still gonna be looking for that top 9 winger. And I think Grabner can still score, and his salary is not that. His salary is for a team that might be up against the cap like LA, or I don't think Nashville's up against the cap, but they can fit that $1.6 million salary in there pretty easily. So I actually think they're going to get more. They're going to get more for Grabner than they do for Nash.
I get the strange feeling from talking to people about Cheveldayoff. They were going to see a very different Cheveldayoff that we've ever seen before, and people have reminded me, that remember he grew up in the Chicago Blackhawks organization. And that's where he was, for many years when, before he takes GM job there. And the Blackhawks traditionally have been very aggressive at the trade deadline because they're a good team. And especially when they've got guys hurt and extra cap space that they can play around with, which is what's happening now. So, I mean, I think that, I talked to somebody yesterday who said Mike Green, they really thought Mike Green was a good bet for Winnipeg. And it makes sense because, like you're talking about, you got Trouba out 7 weeks, you can go in, you can bring Green in, and then you can, for the playoffs, it doesn't matter. You can make the cap work. So you can actually play around with it that way. I think that's, I think that's possible. No, the other thing I wanted to throw out there too, real quick, is I talked to a person on Friday late who told me flat out, he's like, everyone's missing where Erik Karlsson's going to go to, and he's like, there's no question in his mind that Tampa's ahead of everybody in Erik Karlsson sweepstakes. This person said, he said that Tampa has the pieces that Ottawa wants, Tampa has the need and the money, and they're right on the cusp there of something incredible, and they know that if they get Erik Karlsson, Tampa's they're a dynasty. That's how. All right,
I'll tell you what the potential problem is, though. You don't know, and we don't know. Like, a lot of times things look good on paper. You don't know if him and Hedman are going to be good together. And if they're not good together, then you're going to be splitting them up. And that's going to change the dynamic again. Like, a lot of times, look at Keith Yandel. He didn't work out on the Rangers. Now, Erik Karlsson's better than Yandel, but when you bring in an offensive defenseman, sometimes it's better to bring him to a team that doesn't have one other guy that's even good or remotely good, so he could be that number one.
And extrapolate from that. Okay, say Karlsson to Tampa Bay is realistic. If you're Ottawa, who's the first guy that you're asking for from Tampa Bay? You're asking for Sergachev.
Yep.
And I'm not trading a kid who probably should have made the All-Star game to replace Hedman instead of Braden Point, but is one of the top 5 rookies in the league in the league this year. Who's on an entry level? Who's on an entry level for 2 more years at $925,000, and then you don't know whether Carlson's going to re-sign or not. He may simply want to test free agency.
Right. I think if you're making that move, you do know that. I think if you're I agree with you. You don't know if he's going to sign. If you don't know he's going to sign, then of course you're not going to make that move. But I think that this is the kind of situation that Ottawa would let them talk ahead of time.
That's fair. I wanted to just circle back on one little thing with the Rangers again, with the Flyers being askew, but being only a point ahead of the Rangers. Just because we're hearing about this list, they probably still have to lose 3 or 4 more in a row before they actually act on anything.
Right.
I think too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Rangers aren't selling.
And I wanted to circle back on.
They win a few games. Sorry.
I wanted to circle back on what, because Zach, you mentioned JVR in your blog. And, there's a lot of other stuff going on with the Leafs right now that doesn't involve JVR. They're not exactly like earth-shattering in terms of guys that they're going to bring back first-round picks. I talked to Russ about that, and he's right. But you've got players who have been stagnating on their NHL roster for the greater part of the last 2 years, and Josh Levo and Nikita Soshnikov, who are NHL players. I think they would play on a lot of other teams. But the Leafs and Lou Lamoriello have been storing these guys as extra forwards and extra players for with Levo. It's been 2 seasons. The guy signed an extension in November, thinking that he was going to have an opportunity, and he's a Leaf draft pick. He still wants to stay in Toronto, but he's like, I want to play. It's like, if you're not going to play me, trade me. Yeah. And they've got that situation. They've got, right now they're bringing like Roman Polak back off the IR today. They have to make a roster move. They're at 50 contracts. They have too many players, and this is a recipe for them making a 2 or 3 for 1 deal, not trading JVR for a draft pick and a prospect. I disagree with the stance of the organization if what they're going to do is make them an own rental and then just let them go at the end of the year, because I think that's a waste. But that's the direction right now that it looks like they're going. Yeah, no, I think that. But I talked to somebody today that I was really surprised at when they actually flat out said to me, that there have been discussions about JVR in the last couple of weeks with other teams, and I think
you still have to discuss it, even if it's not going to happen, because you could get bowled over with a trade, and there is a time where they say, hey, look, for what we're getting back, we're still going to be a contender, and we're going to solve that problem of not having to have him be around for signing next year. Like, we weren't going to do that anyhow. So if somebody did make that kind of offer, they still probably wouldn't miss a beat. But it would have to be a great offer, right? Lou is touching base with everybody on every possible option. From the reports that have come out in the last few days is, they sent Soshnikov down to the minors to basically have him be showcased so teams can take a look at him. There's talk about them talking to other teams about Matt Martin, who, Babcock is playing Kasperi Kapanen right now to find out what he's got, because he's never really given him a long look. I don't think he wants to get rid of Matt Martin, but Lou Lamoriello is putting calls out there to say, if he's available, what will you give me for him? And I don't know what would be out there, but a playoff team who needs muscle, he's a $2.5 million cap hit. That's not a ton. Here's the game, though, and the game is this. There have been times when Lou has taken away some players from a coach because he can make a deal. So that's true, even though a coach likes a guy. And I don't know if Shanahan would step in Lou's way. I really don't, because if everybody looks at it and says, this is a good deal, then Babcock is going to lose that argument. And there will be times when he loses. And the kind of players you're talking about are the kind of players Lou doesn't think about that much. Lou has his, obviously Matthews, Marner, Nylander. I've heard Kapanen's involved and is not going to get traded. I heard Morgan Riley. There's certain players that are part of his core, and for Lou, that's the way Lou ran New Jersey. You've got a core, and then all the other players, you can find players that are just like those players, and no matter what it is, that's how he does it. So there's other players, sure. If someone wants Matt Martin or someone wants Levo, or he'll move those guys, because to him they're not part of their core. So Lou doesn't care about anybody that's not a part of the core.
The only way that a young player like Kapanen gets moved, because remember he's on the first year of his entry level. He's got 2 more years. He's making less than $1 million. He's very fast. He's very skilled. I think he's going to be probably a 15 to 20 goal scorer in this league. I think that's reasonable. The only way they trade him is as part of a package to get a top 4 defenseman, and that deal is probably not happening until the summer.
Right. Now I don't know about that. I didn't know about the situation in Carolina. What happened here?
I caught this yesterday, and it's worth happening. Bill Peters had a bit of a meltdown in a sort of a dramatic, but for frustrating sense. And I'm just sort of going through here some of the quotes and stuff. He called the loss to San Jose unacceptable and disappointing in his post-game press conference. But then later on, there was a thing. Okay, and here's a tweet from Michael Smith. Expect to see a different Canes lineup on Tuesday. Peters, there are at least 3 that can go in. And if not those 3, there's a group down in Charlotte too. You can't put that group out again after that. That's not acceptable. They let each other down too in the room. That is incendiary.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
Mike Babcock to me. That is Mike Babcock to me, full and through.
Yeah.
And Mike Babcock said a very similar thing on Saturday after the loss to Boston. He said there were some players that didn't show up, and
remember that's where Peters is all about Babcock. So
right, the thing is every time you look at Carolina, they win a game, and they win a game in impressive fashion, and then they turn around and they lose. I think it was like 4-1, 5-1 to Detroit, and then they lose this game. It's like there's still not enough there. The goaltending is questionable, and I still think that they don't have enough offense. And they're so loaded on defense that I keep going back to it. They
need. I think there's 2 messages. You're right, Mike. But there's 2 messages here. One of them is Peters to Ron Francis. Hey, you've been given the green light from ownership to do something. Do something. That's one message. Yeah. And then the other message is he has gone all in. He has pushed the chips all to the center, and he's putting every player's feet to the fire, which I think Hurricanes fans would be in favor of, and I don't think would put his job in jeopardy as a result. I don't.
It'll be interesting to see. I don't know how much term left he has on his contract, but I agree wholeheartedly with the rest. He's there, and he's done that. He's put the chips on the table. He's got nothing left now.
Right.
Like there's no other.
No, that's the biggest thing he said. Is the biggest thing he could say all year.
Yeah, but frankly, yes, in a logical sense, there's probably a better deal for the Hurricanes in the summer. But when teams are desperate and you're that loaded on the back end, that's when you also have to attack too.
Yeah.
Because look at the prospects the Leafs have, but imagine if you could throw a few guys in, a Kasperi Kapanen, and maybe even a JVR to get someone out of Carolina for the blue line. I mean, you can put your pieces together to make it work. And Mike, you can do that better than I can in understanding the value and where they see it. But that's the kind of thing that Lou Lamoriello should be looking at and saying, there's a pressure cooker down here. How can I exploit it? Because something's not right there. And when coaches go down that route, and you aren't a Mike Babcock with a 10-year deal and backing of ownership and stuff to that way, and you have a new owner, there's opportunity there.
I can't help but think too that this is, obviously this leads into tonight, where Carolina plays Philly, which is a huge game for these 2 teams because these 2 teams are 1 point apart from each other in the standings. Carolina's gotta come up with a big win here he's got to be looking at the standings, all the time, and he's going into a stretch where Carolina plays a whole bunch of games against teams they're chasing. Like
his contract's up after this year. He signed a 2-year extension in July 28, 2016. It was reported. So his contract is up.
Okay. By the way, going back to, I got another text from someone, Mike, who says that said that Carlson and Hedman would look pretty damn good in the World Cup of Hockey together.
But World Cup is not the NHL. It's not.
They were very good on that team.
But it's not the NHL.
Yeah, that's playing for your country. When you're playing for a club team and one guy gets 27 minutes a night, and then another guy comes in and says, "I want to play 30" because he's played 30 in Ottawa. That can cause some problems with ego.
Or you have Niedermayer and Pronger in
2007 Anaheim.
Yeah, right.
I mean, then you just don't have Niedermayer or Pronger off. Good luck with that.
Yeah, right.
No,
exactly.
It could be, but I'm just saying it's not a guarantee. It never is.
It isn't. And the thing about the Niedermayer and Pronger thing is they had all season to figure that out. They had all season to adjust and move. Now you're getting into 2 months, and it can take longer than that.
Right.
But these guys know each other. These aren't strangers to each other. I mean,
no, of course they know each other.
And we're not talking, in my theorizing about what a deal would be. Sergachev would be part of it. It would be a lot more. It'd probably be Sergachev and somebody like Braden Point. It would probably be somebody. It would have to be an overpay to get Karlsson to be traded, just like the Leafs would have to overpay Tampa, being in the same division as Ottawa. You don't think that Ottawa would expect anybody from the Atlantic Division to overpay for them to have to see Erik Karlsson come into their building 2 or 3 times a year? Yeah.
No, for sure. I don't think it'd be Point though. I think it would be. I think Tyler Johnson would be involved in the deal for sure.
Maybe. Circling back to Carolina, knowing now that what deal is with Peter's contract, knowing that they have an owner that just took over, like the owner's probably looking at this and saying, we're literally 2 points out of 2 potential playoff spots. There's no way he's going to let Francis bail out of that. He may never bail out of that.
Francis has any intention to bail out of that. I think.
No,
Francis,
I know, but basically, I think they have to go the other way. Even if Francis wants to sort of be like even keel on this and wants to be wants to wait it out a little bit, the owner is going to push him to do something to not only make the coach happy, but to try and make up this deficit. I think there's a lot of pressure to get that done right now in Carolina.
Unlike most of the teams out there, I think Carolina is set up to make a hockey deal and not a they could make a deal where they trade for a rental and trade prospects because they have a lot of them, but they really need to make a consequential hockey deal where they trade, say a Noah Hannafin to a team for a forward that is of a like age and a like talent. And if they could get that, I think that would help them immensely because they need that offense and they're loaded on the blue line.
I think I smell a rat in this. I smell Francis and Peters being in cahoots, and I smell this as being a big play. Like Francis, Peters saying, I'm gonna freak out on the team and This it just feels like that because Francis and Peters are really tight, and they are definitely very similar, and they're both really smart, really smart hockey people to the point where they would be looking at this on a much larger level than it could have been a planned freak out. What I'm saying, it kind of reminds me of those when I've seen this situation before, those kind of players and this kind of situation going into a stretch of games you have to win. This feels like a way of shaking up the team a little bit, but not. And I think Francis is going to try it. I really think Carolina's going to do something big.
Speaking of shaking up a team a little bit, Brian Elliott was activated. And I got to tell you, I knew the other day with Alex Lyon starting on Saturday against, what was that, Ottawa? Ottawa, right? It was a bad idea. It was a really bad idea because here's the thing. New Jersey, thank you.
Right.
No, it was Ottawa. No, it was Ottawa because what's his name?
In Ottawa, though. We started both games.
Yeah, Matt Duchene scored 2 goals. It was Ottawa.
We started against New Jersey, too.
No, I know, but the one against Ottawa was the one that we all felt, and we got the word that the reason he started was because Michael Neuwirth has, sort of annoyed management with the stomach virus thing by sort of using that as an excuse. So they put Lyon in there. Coach Hackstall puts him in there. And he's a positional goalie. Yeah. He's not this great athletic goalie. And so unless you have a really tremendous defense, he was hung out to dry on a couple of those goals. And so, of course, Neuwirth ends up coming in the game anyhow, right? And, that was just a weird thing that happened. And so now Elliott really has the job to himself. That's the way this is shaking out now.
Heck, we have to end pretty soon because of the time.
I agree with you. I do agree. And I think that I think the Flyers blew 2 really big opportunities against Washington and New Jersey over the weekend. Basically, that they were up in both games and they lost both games without getting a single point out of either game. So that was like they were up by 2 goals, I think, in each game.
Yeah,
that's like Anyway, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Absolutely, we'll be back again soon. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey, folks. Talk to you tomorrow.